I cracked open an egg and found a small note inside. It read, "Help me. Every morning, not long after the sun has risen, it is time for me to reluctantly hop out of bed and get my breakfast. My morning doesn't truly begin though until I have eaten my 2 fried eggs. It's a tradition that I have participated in for as long as I could remember. As a child, my mother would cook me 2 fried eggs every morning, and it is something I adapted into my adult life. Yesterday morning started like any other. I forced myself out of bed and made my way to the kitchen. I found the carton of eggs that I keep inside the refrigerator and picked up 2 of the biggest eggs I could find. I walked over to the stove, turned it on and started to warm up the pan. Soon enough, the pan was hot and ready to go, so I picked up the first egg, gave it a little tap on the side of the pan, then spilt the contents of the shell onto the pan's hot surface. Out spilled the gooey and sticky contents of the egg onto the pan. It sizzled and began to cook as soon as it touched the burning hot plate. I reached out and grabbed the second egg, gave it a tap and then cracked it open into the pan. I expected to see another raw egg fall out of the shell, as it normally would, but instead all I saw was a small piece of paper slide out of the eggshell and land in the frying pan. Just by instinct, I quickly grabbed at the paper, managed to get a hold of it by its edges and pick it back out of the pan before it had a chance to burn. The piece of paper was folded in 2 and only the size of a matchbox. I unfolded it and discovers that there was something written on the paper. Just 2 small words. "Help me." I stared down at the words written on the small piece of paper. I couldn't believe what I had just read, and I couldn't believe where I had just found this note. How did the note end up inside of the egg? And why does someone need help? I couldn't fathom how and why this was happening, but one thing I did want was answers. I returned to the fridge and opened it, then searched for the carton of eggs that I had grabbed the egg out of. I found it and picked it up to read the label. On the carton there was a small painting of a farmer, who was wearing a large straw hat and was holding a pitchfork. Underneath the small painting was the words "Gully's Farm." This was my first clue into solving the mystery of the strange note. My first thought was try and research the farm on the internet, which is what I spent the next hour or so doing. Initially, I couldn't find out anything too interesting about Gully's Farm, only an old website that greeted me with a cartoon dancing chicken. The website contained no useful information. It didn't provide a phone number or an address of the farm, just a small description of what they produced there. I was no closer to finding anything useful about the farm, but that changed when I found a small forum that was discussing new farming techniques. Most of it was talking about new ways of farming, most of which I didn't understand, but near the bottom of the online forum, I found a comment relating to Gully's Farm. The comment, in its entirety, read as follows: "I have recently become interested in the exciting world that is farming. In fact, I have become so interested that I am attending a job interview tomorrow at Gully's Farm. It's just a small egg farm that is run by a few local people, but I have heard of some of their new techniques for farming, and I am definitely interested in what they are planning to do. I can't say too much more, other than it has the potential to revolutionize the farming industry. Gully's Farm on Cotton Road. Remember the name because they will be famous." I was interested in knowing more about what they were planning to do that would revolutionize the farming industry, but I also now had an address. Cotton Road. After some further research, I had discovered the location of the farm and I now knew that it was only an hour's drive from where I lived. I wanted answers. No, I needed answers. I contemplated going to the police but decided that they wouldn't believe me, and also if someone was in trouble, then I wanted to be the one to save them. So that's how, this morning, I found myself at the gates of Gully's Farm. The wire fence ran along the perimeter of the farm for as far as the eye could see. It was only a meter or so high, so it would be quite easy to get over. Inside of the fence, there were a few different wooden barns that ran alongside each other. They stood about 6 meters high and maybe 5 car lengths long. Next to the barns, there were countless chicken coops, lined up next to each other, like an army of soldiers in formation. One chicken coop seemed a lot larger than the others and was near the back of the farm. The other building that I could see was a large farmhouse, which is where I guess the farmers lived. The farm seemed empty apart from the light breeze that was slowly blowing across the open land. I had made it this far and so knew that there was now no turning back. After one more quick glance around the farm and seeing no movement, I hoisted myself up the thin wire fence, swung both legs over it, and jumped down the other side. I was in. I slowly crept towards one of the barns, one that seemed larger than all of the others, trying my best to not make any sound and alert anyone to my presence. I was about halfway to the barn when I heard a strange sucking sound, like a loud vacuum, followed by a wailing scream. I stopped suddenly in my tracks and looked over to where the scream had come from. It was coming from one of the chicken coops. I realized that it was coming from the large chicken coop. I was still deciding what to do when I heard it again. The loud whirring sound that sounded like it was sucking something, and then the horrible screaming sound. I recognized the scream to be one of pain, so I knew I had to help whoever was inside. I quickly ran towards the big chicken coop, expecting to hear the scream again, but it never came. I reached the coop, sweating and out of breath, but I had made it. I put my hand on the handle that was attached to the large wooden door that kept the coop closed. I pulled on the handle and opened the door, revealing what was inside. The first thing I noticed was the large cage that took up most of the coop. The second thing that caught my attention was the large hose pipe that ran along the inside of the cage. I followed the hose pipe with my eyes, and at the end of it was something I really didn't expect. A woman. Only they looked slightly different. Where the woman's mouth sat, I noticed that her jaw was quite extended, almost like a beak, and I could have sworn that I saw a few feathers poking out of her skin along her arm. She was laying on the bottom of the cage, sweating and crying. She looked like she had just been through something traumatic. Which I was about to find out she had. I heard the loud whirring sound again, as I saw the hose pipe begin to constrict. I then heard a soft popping sound, followed by another. The woman on the floor let out a loud scream that I felt run down my spine. Then the sound stopped and the hose pipe returned to normal. I then heard a small clang from just outside of the coop. I didn't know how to react to what I had just seen and experienced. I wanted to help this poor woman, but I wasn't entirely sure how. I also wanted to investigate and find out about the small clanging sound from outside. I turned around to go and discover what it was, but when I turned around, I was greeted by 3 metal prongs pointing directly into my face. I looked down the length of the prongs and down the long wooden handle that they were attached to. I saw that someone was clutching the pitchfork that was pointed directly at me. I saw his large straw hat and I recognized this person instantly. It was the farmer from the egg carton. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" the farmer asked me. A slight southern twang was present in his voice. I didn't respond, and so he spoke again. "The art of egg making. It's beautiful. The act of growing something inside of an animal, something that can provide and sustain us." I looked at the farmer, dumbfounded by what he's saying and what I had seen. "You look surprised," he continued. "Well, do you know what surprises me? The fact that you ordinary folk thought that we could continue egg demands with just chickens. You really think we can keep up with the entire population's egg consumption with just some small birds? No, of course not. We needed something else, and here at Gully's farm we found it." It was at this point that I realized what the clanging sound outside was. I had heard the sound of an egg hitting a metal bucket before, I just didn't realize that that's what it was. I knew now though. Here at Gully's, we are innovating new ways to create eggs. New and exciting ways. Why only get a few eggs from a chicken when our hybrids here can produce a few hundred every couple of hours? The hybrids do have a lot more space to store them. It's the way forward. It's the future.